Epydemic2020, hey, it's Swiss Topper here. Just watched a video on 5 questions for atheists and thought I'd do a response of my own, followed up with some questions for you guys. Now, seeing as many atheists have already posted quite in-depth responses, I thought I'd keep mine fairly brief so that I can focus on the questions I have for you guys. So, take it away.
Question 1. What kind of evidence would it take for you to believe in God?
Well, I would need evidence of an all-powerful entity. In other words, I would need some large, flashy, showy thing that proves that there is something out there with all this power that you're talking about. I would need God to rearrange all the stars in the sky so that it spells out his favorite verse from the Bible. You know, something like that.
Question 2. Is there anything that I can do that could possibly convince you that God exists?
Like, would any argument we could make have the potential to persuade you?
No. Seriously, no. Arguments aren't going to cut it. I need evidence if I'm going to believe in something like God.
Question 3. If you realized that an all-loving God existed, would you desire to have a relationship with him?
If you said yes to that question, would you want to have a relationship with him just to get into heaven or for some other reason?
Yes. I'm a biologist. I love studying different forms of life. If this God entity existed, I would love to find out more about it. I would love to have a relationship with it so that I could discover more about it. Also, you forgot to mention that if you don't have a relationship with this entity, you spend an eternity in insufferable torture. I think that's, enough justification for anyone wanting to have a relationship with him. Again, that's just basically blackmail, though, isn't it?
Question 4. Have you ever met a Christian who lives their life in such a way that it is clear that they really believe in an all-loving God?
Meaning they live a life which is impressively kind, loving, and selfless.
No. Because it was never clear if they weren't simply being kind, loving, and selfless so that they could get into heaven, which would mean it wasn't selfless. So, to answer your question, no, I have never met a Christian like that.
And question 5. Has the presence or lack of that type of Christian had any impact on your atheism?
No. How would it? The only thing that would affect my atheism is evidence for God, or, in this case, the complete lack thereof. So no. No. Alright, time for some questions of my own. Now, you prefaced your video by saying that you wanted to learn more about atheism, or to understand us. Well, if you really want to do that, I suggest you try and answer these questions I have for you, which will actually probably tell you more about atheism than your original questions. Now, these questions are simply your own questions sort of thrown back at you, as it were, just reversed a little bit. And I would really appreciate it if you took the time to think about them and then answer them, because, you've had about 50 replies to your video, so it's probably about time people heard what you have to say on the subject. So, here goes. Question 1. What evidence did it take for you to start believing in God? And secondly, what type of evidence would it take for you to believe in a different God? Such as Allah. I mean, what would it take to get you to convert to Islam? Question 2. Is there anything that I could do that could possibly convince you that God doesn't exist? Like, would any argument I could make have the potential to persuade you? Secondly, is there anything a Hindu could do to convince you that Shiva exists? Like, would any argument that they could make persuade you? Question 3. If you realized that no gods existed, would you change your lifestyle and your morals? Secondly, if you realized that Buddhism was true, would you wish to attain enlightenment and nirvana? Question 4. Have you ever met an atheist that lives their life in such a way that it's clear that they really don't believe in any gods? Meaning that they live their lives as if they were truly responsible for all their actions and know they can never be granted forgiveness or clemency from a higher being? Or, have you ever met a Mormon that lives their life in such a way that it's clear that they really believe in God? Meaning that they live their life in an impressively kind, loving, or selfless way. Question 5. Has the presence or lack of that type of atheist or Mormon had any impact on your Christianity? So, like I said, those are simply your questions thrown back at you, and I think it'd be great if you did a response to that. So, thanks for watching, and cheers, keep learning.